Hey guys, Silverpaw Reads here, and I'm doing a little bit more of those three words. I'm putting Sunny Life on hold until I finish this one since I'm so close. The time we're on chapter 15, we only have a few more chapters to go. From here on out, it gets a little dramatic. Well, at least at the end of the chapter, things start to get dramatic. Saturday, prom night. Tell sighed quietly in his room. He must have been the only person in the year to be dreading this evening as much as he did. Sonic, he wasn't so sure what the Hedgehog thought about the whole thing. Dances and dinners and dressing up smartly, those had never been exciting in the slightest for Sonic, but he didn't seem to mind going at all. It didn't even seem to bother him much that Tails was expected to spend the entire evening with a girl. I have to spend the entire evening with Blaze, Sonic had pointed out, scoffing lightly at Tails' over-dramatization of the situation. That's different, and you know it is, Tails replied, frustrated. You two aren't dating, you're going together for show. So are you and Marine, technically, but no one knows that. Sonic's eyes widened a little at the snappy remark. He lowered his head, shaking it slowly, and chuckled. Tails, it's one evening, a few hours and it'll be over. I don't get what's bothering you so much. The fox had given up trying to explain. He didn't even know himself why he was so apprehensive. Just the thought of going to one of these things with a girl he didn't even like. To think he'd have he'd have to dance with her and hold her hand and enjoy himself with her, it made him shudder. It seemed so wrong to put on a show when he'd only wanted to do those things with Sonic. Tails clenched his fists as he sat down on the bed alone. Why was the world so unfair? Why did he have to live his life the way other people wanted to, rather than how he wanted? It wasn't fair on him, on Sonic, on their families and future families. What if there were others like them in the world? He had wondered this a lot of times. Tails stared at the ceiling night after night, thinking up crazy ideas on how to get what he wanted and keep it. They were all ridiculous and impossible. The only two realistic scenarios would be that he could stay with Sonic secretly all the way through their lives and also get a female partner and have children. And that thought made Tails shiver. Sonic with someone else was unimaginable. He wouldn't be able to stand seeing someone else touching him, kissing him, laughing with him, telling him they loved him. Then there was the woman herself and the children. Why should they have to live with and love someone so fake? The second final option would be to break it off with him and live normal lives with a family and everything that was expected. Tails felt sick at the thought. Not being with Sonic anymore would be an impossibility itself. He loved Sonic without a doubt. He'd not be able to see him every day like nothing had happened. The night they had made love was still the best night of both their lives. Tails felt like everything that had happened up to the point had been leading to it. It was like nothing made sense before then. Like that was the final twist in the story which made everything add up. Of course, he didn't tell Sonic any of this, though he's desperate to know if the Hedgehog felt the same. It sounded far too cliché, and Sonic, for one, hated anything that sounded corny. It's nice, Tails, but it's way too cheesy, Sonic would say with a shrug whenever Tails voiced his feelings deeply. It sounds like you read a line in a book and thought it'd be nice to repeat it. It's too rehearsed to sound good, like a script, But that's how I feel, Tails replied once, embarrassed and hurt. I know. Sonic had stepped forward and rested his hand flat on Tails' chest, feeling the material beat gently with his pulse. His other arm had snaked around the fox's middle, pulling him gently closer. But feelings are meant to be felt, right? Not spoken. I love you says enough without you explaining the details, okay? Tails had nodded, the smile already in his face, muzzle reddening. Now he stood from his bed and stared at the reflection in the mirror. Unlike the girls, and probably some of the boys too, he hadn't begged for his parents for new clothes for the prom. The dress code was smart/casual, not formal, so he wore black jeans and a white collared shirt. The crimson heels of his sneakers seemed to ruin the monotone of his attire, but it couldn't be helped. The fox wrapped a tie around his neck and began to knot it. With a shrill buzzing made him jump. He picked up his phone from his bed and answered it. Hey, Tails. A smile crept across his face. Hi, Sonic. You're still worrying about tonight, aren't you? Sonic's voice sounded hopeful that Tails would reply no. Tails thought he probably should say no, but he couldn't stop worrying, and he knew Sonic wanted to know that. Kinda. I don't know, Sonic. Something about tonight just makes me want to hide away in my room. You can't do that. I'll be bored all evening. The Hedgehog paused. Plus, Marine would miss you, he said with a smirk. Tails gave a weak, sarcastic laugh and said nothing in response. Sonic went on, after tonight you'll be able to break it off with Marine easily, seeing as you only did agree to go out with her for the prom. Tails' face lit up brightly at the thought. Then he fell as the options he had been considering for his and Sonic's future entered his mind. Maybe it would be easy for him to keep the same girlfriend. The thought of having a girlfriend at all made Tails wince. He only wanted Sonic. What was he meant to call Sonic anyways? His boyfriend? Tails? The Fox hadn't realized the phone conversation had fallen silent. Yeah, Sonic, I should get going. We're leaving pretty soon. Alright, see you later. I love you, Tails whispered after Sonic put the phone down. He sighed. Tails was extremely glad he decided not to take the prom seriously. It was one evening barely 4 hours long, and yet some of the guests had gone way over the top. Girls leapt from limousines in huge dresses that must have cost their parents entire paychecks. The boys acted like they didn't care about the prom, yet some of their outfits must have been way too expensive to not care about it. Tails was glad to see he was not the only one dressed in something that didn't break the bank. He entered the prom hall alone, trudging along behind a group of people he couldn't name. He found a corner with a chair and sat in it, watching everyone else wander over to the dance floor, the stage, the bar, of course no alcohol. Next to where he sat was a huge table filled with food. People drifted over, glanced briefly at it, and walked away. Obviously, they weren't hungry yet. This is more like a last-minute house party than a prom, Tails thought miserably, picking a strip of chicken from the food table and nibbling it. He kept his eyes fixed firmly on the door, awaiting Sonic's arrival, dreading Marine's. He really hoped she wasn't wearing one of the dresses he liked to mock. What if she made him compliment it? The door swung open and in walked Sonic. Tails felt his heart leap. Sonic's outfit was similar to his own, collared shirt, with tie and jeans, yet they couldn't have looked more different. Sonic's shirt was black, the first couple of buttons undone, sleeves rolled up, tie hanging loosely. His jeans, a deep blue that was almost black, trailed their hems on the floor, covering all but the tips of his red shoes. The hedgehog's quills were messed slightly, his expression was hard to read, and he stood with his hands in his pockets. Every head turned to look as he walked in. Tails could see shadow in the corner of his vision. He didn't look happy as Amy too watched Sonic enter. Tails' eyes followed Sonic as he walked across the room and stopped close to Blaze. He flashed Tails a cool grin, then turned away from him. Tails sighed at Sonic's ability to look so good without even trying. The fox dragged his eyes back to the food table and felt his heart leap once more. Marine stood right in front of him wearing a green dress that Tails had to admit wasn't horrible. Hey! Marine smiled, slightly nervous. Tails breathed in deeply and stood up with her. At least she hadn't said anything annoying. The evening dragged, and eventually a couple of hours passed, and there was still more to go. Tails wanted to scream. He and Marine must have been the most awkward couple at the prom. Neither knew what to say to the other. Even Sonic and Blaze, the fake couple, seemed more comfortable than Tails and Marine. Pretty soon everyone had eaten and had a drink, and the dance floor was filled. Marine suggested that maybe the two of them should dance too. Tails agreed half-heartedly and wondered why Marine was so quiet and nervous this evening. This is so awkward, Tails thought as he danced clumsily with Marine. She seemed to know how to dance, but he couldn't follow her steps. He felt like everyone was watching them, even though when he scanned the room, all the other couples were too busy to notice anything else. Several people were kissing. They weren't at all self-conscious and didn't seem to care if people watched. Tails ached to be able to kiss Sonic freely like that. It just wasn't possible. The fox stopped looking at others and turned his head slowly to Marine. He pulled forward suddenly and felt unexpected lips on his own, rough and inexperienced. Sickly sweet fragrance filled his mouth and his nose as he realized with horror that Marine was kissing him. Tails' eyes were wide with shock as he froze, unsure of what to do. From the corner of his eye, he could see Sonic glaring right at him. His expression read nothing but hatred. Tails couldn't bear it. He shoved Marine away harshly and stared at her for a few seconds. Her eyes were confused and hurt. He knew she would hate him now. He knew Sonic did too. I'm sorry, Tails gasped, turning and running from the hall. He scrubbed at his lips with his arm, greasy lipstick smearing on his fur. There were tears in the fox's eyes as he slammed himself against a wall around the back of the building. He let himself fall to the ground. His head fell into his hands and his tails wrapped around his knees. It had all seemed so quick. Why did he let Marine kiss him for so long, or at all? All he could think of was for Sonic's cold green eyes and the way he was looking at him. It was as if he'd never speak to Tails again. Footsteps were approaching. Tails knew whose they were. He opened an eye to see a blur of red shoe. A tear slipped down his cheek as Sonic stepped forward. Tails? An odd hint of fear could be heard in the hedgehog's voice. I'm sorry, Sonic, Tails whispered. He shifted a bit, not raising his head, then mumbled, I guess you hate me now. No, Sonic insisted. There was a pause. You didn't want to kiss her, did you? Tails' head shot up and he looked right at his partner. Of course not, Sonic. It was horrible. She got lipstick all over my face and I nearly choked to death on her perfume. Sonic couldn't help but chuckle. Bad, huh? He held out his hand. Tails looked at it for a while, deciding Sonic didn't hate him after all, and they let himself be hauled to his feet. Whoops, Sonic grinned as he pretended to fall forward with Tails' weight. They ended up against the wall. Tails smiled at Sonic contentedly, tracing small circles on the hedgehog's chest. I thought you were mad at me, Tails said sadly. Sonic shook his head. I thought you kissed her. Not the other way around. Kinda got a little jealous, I guess. So there was a reason to dread tonight, Tails said smugly. Sonic said nothing in reply but leaned forward and pressed his mouth to Tails. They were locked in a tight embrace, pushed as closely together as they could get. Sonic took Tails' bottom lip between both of them and kissed him gently. A long and slow kiss that made Tails' heart thud and his face flush. He shivered as Sonic's fingers brushed the back of his neck, and he ran his own hands through Sonic's quills. They remained there for what seemed like hours, but could have been no more than a few minutes. Sonic pulled away briefly to whisper, I love you, Tails. And he froze. After a few seconds, Tails frowned, wondering why Sonic had stopped kissing him. He looked at the hedgehog's face for an answer and followed the stricken green eyes. Tails' heart stopped. Barely 10 feet away from where they stood, Shadow the Hedgehog stared back at them, mouth open, face pale.